But I can't see her.
Oh.
देखते बच्ची ना और मुख देखते बच्ची ना thank you. I won't know if you're sleeping or no, it's good. Yeah. It's okay.
How are you?
Good.
Okay.
Good.
After talk, then we'll talk.
Okay, talk.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone. We began the topic last night, the Panchakosha doctrine that Sri Ramakrishna discusses in terms of the onion. So I'm going to start out with some review. We can go over some of the things that we talked about yesterday. This morning's talk is more or less filling in the gaps from yesterday. I kind of laid out the whole thing. This morning will be a little more the practical side of what do we do with this doctrine? How does it help us in our spiritual practice? And what do we learn from it? So let me start out by going through some of the things that we talked about last night, that what Sri Ramakrishna is trying to tell us when he talks about peeling the onion. So we have really two things here. One is what is the anatomy of the onion. So that means that how do we understand this human personality in terms of the real self and the different coverings which give us the apparent self or the empirical self, we can say. So we understand it that way, that we're trying to understand what makes us individual people. What are the different aspects of our personality? And it's seen in terms of this pure self and all of the things that are added onto it, layer by layer by layer. So we have these concentric circles. Then the second part of this is peeling off each layer. That how do we do that in order to get to the real self, which is a little bit hidden at the center of it, and yet shining through all of the different layers in its own different way. So Sri Ramakrishna, he talks about one, trying to find the real self. If we analyze the individual, we analyze our own nature, and we try to get to the very heart of our being, he says we'll enter into that space that transcends the I, that there's no personality to it. The idea of personality comes from identifying with the different coverings that we have, that will get to that reality, which we can really say is that divine level. So he says we search for the I, we find God there. Now, this idea, do we find the real self, or do we find God dwelling at the heart of our being? There's no difference. This is the ultimate truth of Vedanta. There's no difference. When we say soham, that this ultimate reality is aham, that means it's I. It's also sa, that means he, or she, equally she, sa. When we do this puja of worship of Divine Mother, we also say saham, I am she. Yeah, soham, I am he, saham, I am she. So the ultimate truth is that we can refer to this ultimate reality within as I am that, or as that there's no I within it. So this ultimate reality will be pure consciousness, but it's not something other than myself. It is myself. So that's that ultimate identity that we have in the early teachings of Vedanta in the Upanishads with the Mahavakyas, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, all of that, that the I and the thou are one and the same. So one way of looking at this is we're trying to find that divine center within. Other way is that if I look at it from the point of this ego, that is there any reality, substance to this ego, this sense of individuality that I have that's connected with body, mind, and senses and everything? If I peel away all of the outer layers of the onion, I find there's nothing there. So this nothing means this ego, there's no real substance to it, but that same nothing is infinite space. That means divinity. So it works on two levels, we can say. One, they say try to find the I, try to find this ego. You'll see there's no substance to it. On the other hand, you'll find God dwelling within. So I'll read the same quote that I read, the two that I read yesterday. If one knows his own self, he knows other beings and God. What is my ego? Is it my hand or foot, flesh or blood, muscles or tendons? Ponder deeply, and you will know that there's no such thing as I. As you peel off the skin of an onion, you find it consists only of skin. You cannot find any kernel in it. So we start out with this idea that we peel everything away. There should be something there. There should be some shining gem. There should be some pearl. There should be something there that it's almost like a Buddhist idea that we'll find just the self is empty. We'll find that emptiness there, but it's not a negative. It's not a abhava. It's shunya. It's empty, but it's not non-existent. We find that. So you will find there's no real entity that you can call I. So this means that there's the ego, there's no vastu behind it. There's no real substance behind it. It is all the play of Maya. Is all this trick of the mind almost that makes us feel that this is who I am, even though it's constantly changing and there's nothing permanent to any of this. The permanence comes from the seer, the witness, and we'll get to all that. So such an analysis of the ego convinces one that the ultimate substance is God alone. When egotism drops away, divinity manifests itself. Then the second quote, if one analyzes oneself, one doesn't find any such thing as I. Take an onion, for instance. First of all, you peel off the red outer skin, then you find thick white skins. Peel these off one after the other, and you won't find anything inside. So this is reference to what we call Panchakosha doctrine. And there's earliest reference, probably Taittiriya Upanishad, but this Vivekachudamani, this is where we find, I don't remember, 150 verses long section of Vivekachudamani on explaining the nature of these 5 concentric circles. So this idea is that the self seems to be something that we can wrap things around. So when we peel everything off, we find that there was nothing that we started with. Yeah, but it seems to be like that. And these circles go from inside out or from outside in, however we look upon it, but they're concentric and they're interior, each one. So we have the Annamaya Kosha. This is the sheath of the body. Anna means food. So this body is nothing but food, converted food, turns into this physical body. So Annamaya Kosha. So then within that, symbolically within that, it's not exactly anything corresponding to physical, but symbolically within that, we have what's called Pranamaya Kosha, the sheath of vitality, we can say. And I think we have to somehow include the senses in that, because we don't have anything separate for the senses. Generally, we'll talk about body and the senses, then the mind, Manomaya Kosha, and Vijnanamaya Kosha. I combine these two more or less because it's all mental function, whether it's sorting things out, making decisions, it all belongs to the mind in general. So these are the two that are closest together. Pranamaya Kosha pervades all of them. We have prana in the body and the mind and intellect and everything. That pervades all of them. Then we have Anandamaya Kosha, the sheath of bliss. Now, we have a correspondence with these 3 bodies. The sheath of bliss is also the Karana Sharira. This is the subconscious. So we have to explain how we carry within us memory of all past experiences, even life to life, that we may not be able to bring into conscious memory. See, there are many things that we experience that will affect us and shape our character that we may not specifically be able to remember. They still have an effect on us. Many people claim that they don't dream. Actually, everyone dreams. Not everyone remembers their dream. Now, there may be some times when we wake up in the morning and we feel a little bit off. Something we don't feel a little uneasy, something uncomfortable. We don't. Later in the day, we remember, oh, I dreamt that this happened, that I got in an argument with somebody, and so we find out that there was some effect on our personality, on our conscious life, without remembering what the cause was. Yeah. So this can explain how we have a whole memory bank of inaccessible things from previous lifetime. Of course, there are rare people who can remember previous lifetime, but also our childhood. Up until the age of 3 or 4, most of us have no recollection of anything that took place then. But there can be traumatic events that take place when we're very small that affect things. So this is all, this necessitates the positing of this causal body, Karana Sharira, this subconscious. And this explains how when we go to sleep at night and enter into that state where there's no dream and there's no awareness of anything, that nothing disappeared, it just temporarily merged. And when we wake up, we have all of our personality traits, everything the same as we did before, because they were just resting at that time in this Anandamaya Kosha or this Karana Sharira. So we have these 2 doctrines. One separates it into 5 sheaths, the other into 3 bodies, but they correspond to each other, and they line up with the 3 states of consciousness. So in the waking state, we use this physical body, and if we use the outermost, automatically we use all of the inner ones. So the physical body means that we're also using the mind and the senses, and the subconscious is always there, that memory bank, informing everything. And then when we have a dream, this physical body is not part of the equation. The subtle body, we create our own physical body. The mind projects a physical body. So everything now is just the subtle body will be this manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha, and anandamaya kosha. Then in dreamless sleep, we eliminate this because the mind is not functioning. So automatically intellect is not functioning. So everything is resting then in this anandamaya kosha or karana surya. So this is how the whole thing lines up. If we try to look at this, it's a model. I emphasized yesterday that we shouldn't confuse a model with some absolute objective explanation of the anatomy of a human being. That there can be many different models that we use that all can be all very helpful. So just to give one example, that when we talk about the body and the mind and the self, we have one model that we have a container filled with water, and we have the sun that's reflecting in it, and the water is like the mind. It's separate from the sun. Sun is consciousness, the mind is just an instrument. It's an instrument, it can reflect the sun. Then we have a completely different model that each wave on this ocean of consciousness is like an individual. And when that wave subsides, the mind becomes quiet, it becomes one with the ocean. Here, the mind is nothing but consciousness broken into waves. So when Thakur says that this pure mind and pure intellect and pure self are one and the same, so somebody will say, well, one, you're saying that the mind is really just the surface of this absolute consciousness, this surface of it, and the other, it's a physical thing, it's an instrument. It's subtle, but composed of parts and everything, Sankhya idea. How do you reconcile these two philosophically? We don't. They're different models, and they're both very helpful. We don't have to bother about it. Yeah, if you want to think about the mind as an instrument catching the rays of the sun, and that sun is allowing it to function, and we try to think that to make the mind still means the waves subside. Good. We don't have to be philosophers all the time. It's a very helpful model. If we like to think that it's just like waves on the surface of consciousness, and we might want these waves to subside, good. It's also beautiful. So a lot of these arguments between different philosophies, Vedanta and Sankhya and everything, turn out to be very trivial if we look at them in terms of spiritual attitudes and models. And this is exactly what Sri Ramakrishna meant. Jotoma Totopat. That he didn't mean that only different faiths and different religions are leading to the same goal. He meant all of these different philosophical systems or models and everything. They're all useful and helpful, and they can take us to that highest type of understanding. So whether we say that this individual is broken down into 3 bodies or into 5 sheaths, it doesn't matter. They're equally helpful ways of looking at the whole thing. So the real point of this is that what do we get when we peel away all of the sheaths of the onion? The Buddhists will say that now you're proving our point. There's an emptiness, shunya, there's nothing there, perfectly empty. And the Vedantists will say, yes, because the nature of consciousness is empty. There's no content to consciousness. Everything that we say belongs to consciousness is an object for consciousness. That consciousness is not a non-entity. It's actually the one thing that everything exists within. Right now we see this room, we're hearing things and everything. This consciousness is not adding anything to that. If we stand in front of a mirror, that mirror doesn't add anything. The mirror is perfectly empty. If the mirror is not empty, if there's dust on it, if it's contorted or something like that, like a fun house, we won't get a pure image of ourselves. It has to be empty. Or if we use the example of light, does light have any color to it? Can light be seen? Anybody? Can you see light? Think about it.
Source of light.
Can anybody? Huh? We don't, light is invisible. We know that the light is on because we see objects. If light added anything to it, we wouldn't see the color of things. So if you turn on a light and this has a filter, a red filter, we'll see everything red. If there's no filter and it doesn't add anything, we see things, of course, this is our idea, we see things the color that they really are. So this light of consciousness has to be clear. It has to be empty. It doesn't add anything on. If one is a witness, we talk about the witness. If the witness has any opinion of his own that will color his description of what happened, he's not a good witness. Has to be perfectly objective. So yes, even Thakur says light is invisible. So people will say, well, if it's invisible, then how do you know it exists? Because of objects. So the same thing with consciousness, that we never see consciousness, we never experience consciousness. How do we know that there is such a thing as consciousness? Because of thought, because of experience, that we won't be able to know anything unless consciousness is there as this ultimate observer and everything. That light of consciousness has to be there. So when we get to the very inside core, we peel away the onion, there's nothing there. It's the Buddhists will say shunyata. The real Vedantists will say you're right. But it's not abhava. Abhava means non-existence. It's not that there's nothing there, but that ultimate reality is perfectly pure and empty. Consciousness is essentially empty. We're not used to that concept because we identify consciousness with mind. But if we observe, every content of consciousness really belongs to mind. And this is what we call adhyasa. We will get to that a little more, that we falsely attribute all of the qualities and activities of the mind to the self, to consciousness itself. So we say that I'm happy, I'm sad, all of these things we add to this I, which the only thing we can really say, if we say anything at all, is I am the witness of this play. I am the observer. I am the sakshi. This is the only, and even that is too much. Ultimately, we can't say anything. So, what is at the heart? What is the real nature of the self? The real nature of the self is that it's perfectly pure, perfectly empty of anything particular. But it is that light of consciousness itself, whether we call it the self, an I, or whether we call it thou, or he, or she, it's actually beyond. It's actually beyond personal and impersonal, beyond everything. What is the real nature of that self? Sri Ramakrishna gives a very beautiful illustration. You will all know this idea of the reflected sun in the container, that you have a container filled with water, and when the sun is above, there are no clouds or anything. If you look in the water, you'll see the sun. You'll see a reflection of the sun. Right? Now he says, suppose you have 10 containers, and each one is filled with water, and each one is getting a reflection of the sun. How many suns will you see? Plus, what's that? 10 plus 1? 11 suns, okay? You'll see the 10 reflected suns and the one real sun. Then he says, okay, suppose that you break one. Then how many do you see? 10, okay. Then break all of them but one. How many suns do you see? 2, got it? Okay. Then break that last one. How many suns do you see? No. He sees, no. He says, then there's no one to say. Then what is there's no one to say. There's no one to say what is the real nature once we peel off all of the layers of the onion, there's no one to say what's there. Then what is, and we have that experience. So Thakur emphasizes this, like the salt doll. If the salt doll wants to measure how deep the ocean is, by the time it gets to the very bottom of the ocean, it's one with the ocean. Even if it can come back, then it can't say anything, because at that time it was one with the ocean. If somebody said, what was it like when you were there at the very bottom? There was no eye to experience it at that time. So it helps us to understand how the different traditions can explain that highest state in different terms. Is it empty? Is it full? So in one place, Ramakrishna says, we use the terminology sat and asat. So he says that ultimate experience, he doesn't say beyond existence and non-existence, he says between. I don't know why. I could say beyond, but it's indescribable. So this is why he uses a nice Bengali phrase, Brahman ki, mukhe bola jai na, cannot be expressed in words. Everything else is uchishta. Everything else has been defiled by the tongue. Real nature, the Brahman. So what is the real nature? What are we left when we peel away the onion? We're merged in Brahman. No one can say. But from our standpoint, there's nothing that we'll find, no particular thing that we'll find. It's that it's that ultimate reality. Whatever is. So this is what happens when we utilize this idea of the onion. So this, I want to emphasize or stress this idea now. Practically, how do we understand this? So we have this model now that the self is like the onion, in the sense that we have the outer layer of the onion is a little dark, it's a little brittle sometimes. That's this Annamaya, this physical body, and then it gets a little more subtle and a little more transparent as we get closer to the center. It's very brilliant to use this onion. So inside of that is prana. Inside of that is manas, mind. Inside of that is buddhi, is intellect. Then inside of that will be this anandamaya kosha. We can say this is subconscious mind somehow.
Is that the same as soul consciousness in some philosophy?
The same as
Soul.
soul, yeah. This
Soul
okay. Now, when we talk about jiva, let's say the jiva is the closest that we can come to this Western idea of the soul. That we're getting to a big topic now. That because jiva, what is the nature of the individual? We'll get different answers in different traditions. Now, from the Vedantic point of view, if we're talking about the soul, we're talking about everything inside of this Annamaya kosha. So really the subtle body and the causal body. So if we're talking about, say, the soul leaving this body and taking another body, so that'll be the mind and the intellect and all of the samskaras and everything, leaving this body, not necessarily consciously, because everything may go into the causal body at that time, and entering into another physical body. So from our point of view, what we call the jiva is nothing but the Atman that feels somehow dwelling within this body. One of the best ways of understanding is the Kathopanishad chariot idea, that this chariot is like this physical body, and the buddhi is like the charioteer, and the manas is like the reins of the horse, and then the horse is like the senses, and then the road are sense objects, and the passenger inside is the real self. Now, as long as the passenger is inside and feels this is my chariot, and I can look out the windows of this chariot and everything, that's the jiva. But as soon as this jiva realizes that at any moment it can leave the chariot, it's not bound to that chariot, then it knows itself as the Atman. And when it leaves the chariot and finds out that there's only one, that everyone is a reflection of that, then it's Brahman. So in Vedanta, jiva is nothing but Brahman itself. Now, for other schools, and they'll maintain that we all have a certain individuality that will never be transcended. I can get rid of my feeling of connectedness to the body, mind, and all of that. And instead of being, if really there's just an empty space, and everyone has an empty space, there's only space. There can't be more than one. But if everyone is getting out of their chariot, they might find out that, well, we all look alike. There's no difference between any of us, but there are many of us. This will be Ramanuja's idea. From the point of view of the dualistic philosophers, there'll be many jivas. Now, there's a very big point of contention that is there a plurality of individuals. When we get to that state of perfection, if we get to that state where I realize myself is nothing but pure consciousness as the witness, it doesn't make any difference. Really, it doesn't make any difference. I always wonder about this, why they fight over these questions. Yeah, are there many individual souls, or is it just one? From our point of view, if we can say all of the different drops of water that come from the Himalayas, suppose each one is an individual, each one merges in the ocean. Does it matter if they were all individual ones, or there was only one that appeared to be many? Everyone's merged in the ocean. Yeah, this is the goal. At that point, who cares? So this is why I like Thakur's idea. Sri Ramakrishna emphasizes this idea that don't find quarrels among these different points of view. Mata, joto mat, toto pat. These are all, mata means point of view. We make a big mistake when we think that these philosophers are like scientists, that they'll discover the absolute truth. Everyone has to say, oh, okay, that's what it is. Yeah. That now we know exactly how many molecules, electrons and neutrons there are in each atom and everything. And no, it's not like that. Each one is a different model, a different way of understanding, and we can become God realized through any of these ideas, through a dualistic idea, the Buddhist idea. The Buddhists also attained the enlightenment. They may not believe in God or anything like that, or the oneness or individual self. So, to go back to your question, generally what we mean by jiva in Vedanta, and even for the dualistic schools, will be this subtle body, which is dwelling now in this one physical body. At the time of sleep, dream to sleep, it'll dwell within a dream body. And when this body falls, it'll take another body. And so it's mostly what leaves this body is the subtle body leaving. So that's why these outer sheath, once that's eliminated, it doesn't affect the inner sheaths. So anyhow, we'll get to this a little bit later. So the first way, methodology, first way that we utilize this doctrine of the five sheaths is through this vichara. So vichara means that we're using our mind. And I mentioned last night, there's a bit of a paradox here. We're trying to peel away this manomaya kosha and vijnanamaya kosha, but we can only do it with the use of the mind. So we ourselves have to imagine, in our imagination, we try to feel ourselves as being a composite, that we're made up of different parts, and there's something that ties all of these parts together. What is it that gives us this real sense of I? So we have to analyze what is our connection with this physical body. And the main question is that what makes us feel that we're the same person throughout the whole lifetime? What gives us this sense of continuity? What gives us this sense of I, that this is me in the midst of tremendous change? How do we possibly feel? We look at pictures of ourselves as an infant. How is it that we feel that, yeah, that was me when I was young? Huh. So this feeling of continuity of this physical body, of course, we don't notice it happens so gradually. We grow older, and one day we look in the mirror and we say, "Who is this old man with white hair and teeth falling out and everything, looking back at me? Who is this person?" But there's never a question that it's somebody else. Oh, can I tell my joke now? Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah, nobody mind. Any Sadarjis here? Okay. Yeah. Now I have to preface this. I tell this joke often. It's a very nice joke. That I have tremendous respect for Sikh Dharma, for Sadarjis. This in no way is meant to denigrate them and insult them in any way. They're the butt of jokes. Everybody knows that. And it's very unfair and I don't like it. But this doesn't work unless we use the Sadarji. So I have to do it. So I apologize ahead of time. Okay, so you all know Sadarji, the Sikhs with the beard. They have to keep a beard. So there's one Sadarji, he's on the train, and he's feeling sleepy, and he's afraid he'll miss his stop. So there's a man sitting across from him. You know the story? No, good. Okay, sitting across from him, and he says to him, "Do you mind? I'm feeling sleepy. I want to take a little nap. Will you wake me up when I get to this station?" And the man said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And he says, "I'll give you 10 rupees." In those days, 10 rupees was, more than it is today. So the man says, "Okay." So the Sadarji falls asleep. Then the man thinks, "Is it fair to take 10 rupees just to wake him up? I should do something more for him." Now, this man was a barber. Yeah. So he thinks to himself, "Let me give him a shave." Yeah. So he gives him a shave. Sadarji is sleeping the whole time. He has no idea. He has no idea. So he wakes him up. He thanks him. He gives the 10 rupees and he goes home. He goes home and he looks in the mirror and he sees the clean shaven face and he gets very angry. He says, "That rascal, I gave him 10 rupees. He woke up the wrong person." Yeah. Yeah. Now, the point is that no matter whatever happens to us, we'll never think that it's somebody else. Yeah. So this is so what is that feeling? What is it? Let me give an example. Suppose that somebody's in a car accident and they are unconscious and their body is all burned and they have all broken bones and all organs and everything all messed up. And in the hospital, they have to really, they do it face transplant. Yeah, real burn victims, they'll do that sometimes, and they have to replace all of the organs. So complete makeover, almost a completely different physical person and everything. When that person wakes up, will they have any feeling whatsoever that they're not the same person they were before they're told what happened or before they see themselves? They won't have the slightest feeling that anything has changed at all. They'll look in the mirror and then they'll say, "Oh my God, what happened to my face?" They won't say you woke somebody else up. Yeah. So that means that our sense of identification throughout a whole lifetime is not based on this physical body. Yeah. So we understand that no matter how much the body changes, I still feel the same I that was there from the very beginning. Then we talk about the senses. We can lose all of our senses. We can go blind, lose our hearing and everything. The same I. I used to be able to hear very well. Now I can hardly hear at all. The same I. Then the mind. That I used to be very shy. I couldn't talk to anybody. Now I can speak in front of 1,000 people. Doesn't bother me at all. The same mind. I used to be an atheist. Now I'm a highly spiritual individual. Same. Yeah. So what is it that's in common with all of these? What allows us to feel that I'm the same person who used to believe this, now I believe that? What is it that's common throughout all of these? What is that I that's common? Anybody? The witness. The witness. I used to wonder. I grew up as a rabid sports fan, and I used to wonder about this tremendous identification we have with the sports team. Yeah. So I used to think I was a big fan of Philadelphia. Yeah. Pittsburgh people don't mind. Yeah. Philadelphia 76ers. Now, when I was first started as a sports fan, they were the Philadelphia Warriors. There were no 76ers. And then the Warriors got sold to San Francisco, and the team from Syracuse, 76ers, got sold to Philadelphia. So was my allegiance, which team is my allegiance to? So yeah, so a little bit one, a little bit the other, but anyhow, eventually we stick with that. And now the players are constantly getting traded. Yeah. But the new players come, still somehow my allegiance is to the home team. Yeah. But the home team used to be Syracuse. And the real home team now is somebody else. Yeah. In Philadelphia, we had the Philadelphia Athletics. Then it became the Kansas City Athletics. Then it became the Los Angeles Athletics, then Las Vegas. They keep moving. Yeah. There's some people who still they're old timers in Brooklyn. They'd still like the Dodgers. Yeah. But generally, yeah. So I'm thinking, then what is it that's common? Then, well, they're with the same uniform. Every year they change the uniform. The logo, everything changes. And yet still, what is the one thing in common that hasn't changed the whole time? Me, the fan, the observer. All the working parts are all different. Names are different, players are different, even the location. Part of it is location, but everything is different. It's the witness. So this is what we find at the center, that pure consciousness functioning through this apparatus as the observer. This is called Drig Drishya Viveka. Drig Drishya Viveka. This is the main idea that you'll get in all of Swami Sarvapriyanandaji's talks. Yeah, this is his meat and potatoes. This is Dirigdrisha Viveka, that everything that can be observed is not the observer. This is a very basic concept. So if I see a table, I'm not a table. Okay, that's not a problem. But I see this body, so I'm not this body. I observe this mind. And what is mind? Has anybody seen the mind? No. What do we see? Ideas, perceptions. We never really see this mind, and just whatever is a product of the mind. So, am I the ego? Now, automatically we think the definition of the ego is that I am the ego. No, the ego is an idea that arises in the mind with regard to who I think I am, that's observed by the witness. This is Advichara. So this Drishya Viveka, who is the real drashta? Dhrik means drashta. Who is the real observer? The sakshan. That's the real nature of the self. So everything else, even this ego, the mind, the body, of course, and mind, ideas, everything, is something outside of myself. Then we get to that idea of this observer is pure and empty. It doesn't add anything, doesn't subtract anything, just that pure observer. So this is that Vichara Marga, and we also do it with regard to the three states of consciousness. That how is it that we so perfectly identify with this fictional made-up character in the dream that looks like us, when the real body is asleep and not aware of itself at all? The same observer is watching what's taking place in the dream, the same way it's watching what's taking place in this waking state dream, we can say. The same observer is present. Now, what about the dream, the sleep state? Is that observer there? Yeah, but there's nothing to see. Yeah. So this time gets a little bit compressed. Has anybody had the experience of getting anesthesia and getting, say, you go for surgery, colonoscopy, something like that? Yeah. Uh, I've had it twice, and each time I wanted to observe what it was like to be able to go into that anesthesia state. That I did my best to not just lose consciousness, to be observing the whole thing. Of course, you fail; it's not possible to do. So I'm observing very carefully, and then the very next second, surgery is over. Everything was done. You're fine. Yeah. I said, well, how long was it? He said, oh, it took about 2 hours. How is it possible? And what was my experience at that time? If anybody has any experience of blacking out, feigning blacking out, some experience of blackness, of being in a dark tunnel, something like that, that witness is there, but time gets compressed because there's nothing going on. There's relativity of time, but still the witness is there. So they say in Vedanta that when we wake up in the morning, we have some feeling that I slept well, that I had no awareness of the passage of time. I slept well, that this observer is observing the whole thing. But there's nothing going on. So that, as I say, time kind of gets compressed that way. So again, how do we explain the same I in the dream and the same I in the waking state? Is because this witness is observing both. We have a very nice way of understanding this. Oh, and there's a fourth state. This fourth state is called Turiya. This is all from Mandukya Upanishad. This Turiya state is, we can say, the Samadhi state. It looks like this dreamless sleep state because the mind is not functioning in any ordinary way, but it's a state of enlightenment. It's a completely different. So Swami Paramashanandaji, Holy Mother's disciple, in one of his letters, he tries to explain this. He says, imagine that you're in a room and all the lights are on and all the windows are open. So we can see everything taking place outside. We can see everything inside. This is the waking state. So we can see external objects, and we can also be aware of thoughts and memories, everything within the mind. This is a waking state. Then he says, now imagine that the shades are pulled down, so you can't see anything outside, but you can see everything inside. This is like the dream state. Now, he says, imagine that everything remains the same, the shades are pulled down, and the lights are turned off. Dream the sleep state. And then he says, imagine that the room is completely cleared out, so there's nothing in the room, it's completely empty, and the light is left on. So similar, in both cases, we're not seeing anything in the room, but one with full awareness. He says that this is that Turiya state, this is that Samadhi state. Because we wonder sometimes that if according to Raja Yoga, we wanted to get rid of all the vrittis, functioning of the mind. How is it different? There's a dreamless sleep state and Samadhi. So this is that there's full awareness, self-awareness, and of course the real difference is it transforms us, that we come out of that state completely transformed. Okay, so this is also how we bring in this with this vichara. We analyze this sense of I in the different states of consciousness, and we understand that we don't have to be aware and identified of this physical body to feel ourselves as I. We can be have that same equally strong sense of I with the dream body that we have in the dream. That's why in the dream we have no feeling that it's a dream. It feels 100% real. Equally as real, sometimes more real. Sometimes the waking state seems more dreamlike. We have a car accident or we do something stupid. We lock our car keys inside the car and the car's running. We say, oh my God, this can't be real. It has to be a dream. We had dreams like that, yeah. And sometimes we'll have a dream, we'll wake up, it was so real that just we're still shaking from it. Yeah. So, so this is that analysis of the three states of consciousness. The other type of analysis vichara is that anything that we possess has to be separate from us. So just this feeling that I have a body, so I'm not the body. I have a mind, not the mind. I have an ego. We can all say that. I have a big ego, I'm the small ego, so I'm not the ego. So the different types of analysis. So this is all within the mind. This is all making use of the mind. I would say more Vijnanamaya kosha, because we're really, we need a very subtle type of intellect to do all of these things. Now, when we get to the process of meditation, now in the process of meditation, what we're trying to do is experientially experience ourselves without these layers. So if we sit for meditation, we really want to forget that we have a physical body. We want to get to that point where we've lost all awareness of where we're sitting, what the room is, what time of day it is. We want the whole mind to be merged in that object of meditation. So we're in a sense peeling off this physical body, but the mind will still hear things from outside if the eyes are open, see things. So we do this pratyahara. Pratyahara means that we're withdrawing the mind from the senses or closing off the senses. So we want to get rid of pranamaya kosha. So if we identify that with the senses, so we're imagining ourselves now, not that we're trying to imagine ourselves without a body, the body is not part of the equation at this point, and the senses are also gone. So we've tried to reach that stage where we're fully within the mind, fully within the mind. If there are noises outside, we don't hear them. If there's uncomfortability in the body, the back hurts, we don't feel it. We've withdrawn everything. So now we're fully within this manomaya kosha. And now, if we try to still the mind, make the mind quiet, or make the mind one-pointed, so that this mind is not functioning in any ordinary way. We're not thinking thoughts. Maybe if we've concentrated on a point, not thinking thoughts, that means we've peeled off this manomaya kosha and vijnanamaya kosha. And this anandamaya kosha, at that time, if we get any feeling of joy from this, it'll be through this anandamaya kosha, because we've not yet reached that highest stage. And if somehow we enter into that turiya state, then it's as if we peeled off every layer of the onion. So in meditation, of course, this is one type of meditation, not necessarily devotional type, but one type of meditation. We're really trying to experientially, see, the first one, it's all intellectually peeling them off. Now, experientially, what will it feel like to not have this body? You all know, I'm sure, about Ramana Maharshi, that what he did, how he had his first realization, that he was just a teenager, and this fear of death came to him. And he thought that if I can somehow experience what it would be like to be dead, that this fear of death would disappear from me. So he laid down in his room. Actually, if you go to Madurai, you can see the room where he did all of this. They've kept it and everything. This was the transformative experience of his life. So he tried to feel that, okay, let this body become stiff, as if it's a dead body. And let this mind also cease to function. One by one, as if peeling them off, one by one. And then he had that realization that I'm not affected by any of this. I'm the self. That consciousness is still there. And when that experience was done, he was enlightened. And that was the one experience of his life that never left him. Of course, he did a lot of spiritual practice and everything after that, but he almost didn't have to, we can say, just to get established. But so he did that, almost literally peeling them away, and realized that even if the mind is not functioning, I don't disappear. That can't be taken away because that's absolute. That's the one with this ultimate reality. So this is what we try to do when we look at this from the practice of meditation. We're really at least we know that we can get to that point where we forget this body, even if we have a very restless type of meditation. Sometimes we can sit for meditation and we get obsessed with some idea, and the mind is thinking about it the whole time. And we finished the meditation, we realized that we were oblivious to our physical presence in the room for that time being. So even that is helpful. Even that much is a little bit helpful. Okay, so this is the way we utilize this in meditation. Now, we can also look at this process of rebirth. What happens really when the jiva, when it leaves this physical body, that this is a real literal peeling of the onion, really literal peeling of the onion. That this outer layer, outer sheath, is this physical body, and it's gone. Now we get to this interesting question, this pranamaya kosha, and again, I tend to think of this in terms of the senses. Now, to what extent do the senses rely on this physical body and the physical senses, and what extent do they depend upon manomaya kosha, the mind? Is it possible for there to be some type of sense perception when this physical body is clinically dead, brain dead? Huh? What do you say? We would think not, but we have so many fairly well documented cases of what we call near-death experience, right? Where the individual will actually see and hear things that are taking place outside of the operating room. That they'll actually the doctors leave the room and they talk to each other and they say, it looks like we weren't able to save the patient, this and that. And somehow, as if they're going back into the body, and afterwards they say, I heard you talking, I could see you. Now, how do we explain this? The only possible explanation that I know of is somehow there is a separate kosha, the pranamaya kosha, that can somehow function when the physical senses aren't there. Otherwise, it's mysterious. We don't have a very good explanation for any of that. But what will leave this physical body at some point? Of course, the senses will stop functioning. Now, what happens when this subtle body leaves the physical body? First thing we have to accept as fact is that a lot of this is speculation. We don't know exactly what happens, and is it the same with everyone? Do people have different experiences? How much of it is subjective? How much of it is objective? Are there different locus that we go to? Are there these simply different experiences that we undergo? Is there any question of time or travel? These are all different types of things. We'll get different traditions. We'll give different explanations for these things. So we have to, at some point, accept the fact that there'll always be a question mark with these things, that there's no definitive answer. We talk about this Chandra Loka, Surya Loka. Again, there could be dozens of other different things. And we talk about Ramakrishna Loka. You won't find this in the scriptures. What is this Ramakrishna Loka? And each and every individual maybe will have his own Loka. That means that there'll be some experience, subjective experience, that we can reap the fruits of our devotional life and something in what seems to be a realm, Loka. Is it a place or is it just some realm, some experiential thing? It's very hard to say any of these things. But if we accept the idea that this subtle body will find a new physical body, then we have to accept this idea that at least this karana sharira, that all of our thoughts and everything will get compressed and go into some type of What's the term we use when we want to take everything from one computer to another computer? Yeah, but there's a, we can put it into some drive or some that compresses the whole thing, so you can take it from one to the other. Zip file. Okay, yeah, good. So that everything goes into a zip file, huh? So that when the individual or the subtle body, when it enters into a new body, that everything will be there, but we won't have access to everything. This is I was mentioning last night also, we don't have access to every experience we have in this lifetime. When we reach a certain age, we're lucky if we remember what we had for breakfast in the morning. Yeah. It doesn't mean it wasn't experienced and it wasn't observed and remembered and everything, but it'll go immediately into that abyss of memory that's not easily recalled. So, yeah, we'll find this very odd thing that at a certain age, say there are a few people here. I asked what your name was. I don't remember. You told me yesterday, but I'll remember the names of kids that I went to grade school with, that I haven't seen in 60 years, 70 years. Yeah. So the mind is very funny that way with regard to memory, that we don't have to be able to bring things into memory in order for them to be there in that memory bank. It's just a question of access. So there'll be very rare cases where small children, they'll go into a house or something and say, oh, this looks familiar to me. And they'll say, why does it look familiar? And they'll say, oh, I remember that it's a little bit changed, that this used to be here, this used to be the kitchen, now it's this other room. And then they'll go back and do research and they say, yes, that 100 years ago, the kitchen was there and everything. And so that they'll have some type of memory of these things. There are many, many cases of this. Whether we accept it as proof or not, that's a different question. Yeah. The same thing with this near-death experience. There'll be many people who don't accept it as evidence for anything. Just some of the mind is, but the fact that we don't remember anything from a previous lifetime doesn't mean that the experiences of that lifetime have not gone into this compressed zip drive, whatever it is, and affect us so that when we're born, we have certain samskaras, we have certain tendencies and vasanas, certain hidden desires and things that can't be traced back to our experiences in this lifetime. Now, we're constantly filling this karana shurya. Every experience that we have leaves a mark, this samskara, and affects our personality. This is our personality, is the sum total of all of these past experiences and our reaction to them. So everyone, we can have all the same experiences, but we'll develop a different personality. Some will be very traumatic, some will be hardly register anything. Yeah. So that means that this process of rebirth, that we've left behind this outer shell, this outer layer, this annamaya kosha, this pranamaya kosha. Eventually that'll leave also. If there's any sense activity, that'll go. This manomaya kosha may be there at the beginning. There's some people who die in full consciousness. They may observe leaving the body. It's possible. We don't know unless they come back and tell us. At some point, it seems that there's a period of forgetfulness, so that the manomaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha cease to function, and now we have only this anandamaya kosha or karana shurya. So that means that everything now is just in that zip drive, so that when we put it in the new computer, that it'll be there, but we don't have access to it. That's the difference, but it will affect us. It'll affect us, that it'll determine the type of personality that we have to a certain extent, the type of talents and skills and things. But the moment we're born, we're adding to it and changing it. So the early education we have, the early experiences, the training of the teachers, the love that we get from our parents, this probably becomes far more important. And because we all have some essential goodness that can be brought out with us, regardless of bad experiences and things. So we're all a combination of what we bring into the world and what we're taught, our experiences and from childhood and onward. Yeah. So this idea of this onion is also helpful here, that we understand that it'll just be the core of the onion, not the empty part, but the innermost layer that will go, and it'll grow into new layers, whole thing. So we have this whole process of rebirth. Okay, now I want to get to this last idea, which is let's see. Let me see. I've been through all of this. We went through this Adhyasana Upadhi last night. Yeah, I can just go through this one more time. That this is that idea of false identification. That this is how we can understand that we're not simply composed of these different layers, but the whole problem is that we falsely identify with them. And what we falsely identify with mostly is our personality. Not so much the physical body, but now this is where we differ from person to person to person. If someone is, say someone is a fashion model, then their sense of identity will be with their physical beauty. That would be the most important thing. Or take teenagers, if they have a bad hair day, or they have some skin problem or something, how embarrassed they'll be and everything. So much of their sense of identification, self-image, is with this physical body. And then we get to people who, a great scientist. If you go to a great scientist and you say that you look terrible today, did you know that your shirt and your pants don't match? Oh, I had no idea, and nothing. They say, but also, did you notice that that thesis that you came up with yesterday, there were flaws in it? I say, how dare you? Yeah. Yeah. Who are you? Who are you to find any flaws? You know, I had a PhD from MIT, and all their sense of identity is with their mind, with their intelligence and everything. So we all identify with different things in different ways. So the question is that when I say I, what do I think of? When I say I, okay, Miradi, who are you? Who are you? If I ask you, good.
I belong to body and mind both.
Okay. So this is the question. This is the meaning of I. This is when say, what is the meaning of ahankara? Of I. Of course, it means pride also, but from the philosophics, what does it mean? It means, how do we answer that question? Who are you? So generally, we're not going to be the wise guys and say, I am the self. You ask me, who am I? I am a monk of the Ramakrishna order. That this is my name. I was born in such a place. These are my parents. This is who I am. I had this education. That's who I am. Yeah. So the devotee, you ask who are they? They say, oh, I'm a devotee of Divine Mother. I'm a child of God or something. So and the jnani, you ask a real jnani, who are you? I am that. I'm one with that reality, or I am the witness. I'm the observer of everything. So Sri Ramakrishna, he has a very subtle understanding of this ego sense. This ego sense.
You consider that devotee and God are the same person? Devotee, we are the devotee, and God, we are the same person?
Yes and no.
Yes or no?
Yes and no.
Oh,
Yes and no.
no.
Yeah. So is the wave the same as the ocean? Is the wave the same as the ocean? Yes and no. Ocean is huge, a wave is small. But from the point of view of water, the wave is nothing but the ocean. So yes and no. It depends on our point of view. You all know, those who've read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, this verse that's attributed to Hanuman. When Hanuman, he's called, he's in this big assembly, that Ram is there, and in front of everybody, the big assembly, he asks Hanuman that, how do you look upon me? So that means that, what is your sense of I? How do you look upon me? And he says, it depends. It's not a simple question, it depends. He says, Deha Buddhya. If I think of myself, I'm identified with this Annamaya Kosha, with its physical body, then dasoham. Then dasoham, dasa, then I'm the servant, and you're the master. So there's no idea that you and I are the same. Servant will never say that you think you're a big shot. You and I are the same. He'll never say that. They will say, no, I'm nothing. I'm only here to serve you, that you're everything. I'm your servant. Yeah. Then he says, Jiva Buddhya, if I think of myself as an individual soul, to Twad Angshakaha, then you're the whole and I'm a part of you. We're not identical, but I'm not separate from you. You're the whole and I'm a part of you. Then he says, Atma Buddhya, if I think of myself as the Atman, Tvam Eva Aham. I am verily you. No difference. We are one and the same. If I think of myself as the Atman, as the self. So all of them are true. If we say for the devotee, there'll always be separation. If we think of ourselves as the soul, there'll always be connection. If we think of ourselves as the real self, then there's no distinction. Then he says, Iti me nishtita matihi. This is my final conclusion. Now, this final conclusion will be that all of them are true. So the sense of I, who am I? It's constantly changing. It's constantly changing. No, but if I think that you ask me, who am I? If I'm in a very devotional mood, see, when I say I'm a monk of the Ramakrishna order, what if I say, who am I? I'm servant of Sri Ramakrishna. A little bit closer. I won't say I'm one with Sri Ramakrishna. I can say I'm one with the self, something like that. But as long as we're in this devotional mood and on this relative level, then there'll be separation. But it's not ultimate, because it's based on identification. See, if I'm a servant, identification with this physical body, and there's nothing wrong with it. As long as I feel that the physical body, then let me serve Sri Ramakrishna. Let me be a soldier in Swamiji's army. Good, beautiful attitude. And if a little more subtle than that, then let me feel that I'm the ocean, wave resting on this ocean of consciousness, never separate from it. Let me feel that. And then I want to go even higher. Let me feel that it's just space inside the jar. There's no distinction. It's all infinite absolute space, only because of the jar. I break the jar, there was never any separation. It was always one. So all of these are true from a different point of view. Now, the Advaitin will say the last one is ultimately true, because when we give up this body and have that final realization, then we're merged. Sri Ramakrishna will say, what that state is, nobody can say. It is what it is. It can be described differently from our point of view, because once we're there, no one can describe it from that point of view. So this false identification of this ego sense is what we have to analyze here. This adhyasa, that I feel identified with my mind, mostly with the mind, with the personality. But who is it that feels identified with it? It's the real self. It's this real life. So anyhow, Sri Ramakrishna, he says that the sense of I, see, there's a corollary to this. When he says that you peel the onion, you realize that this I is completely unreal, that there's no substance to this I. He says that the very next second, this feeling of I comes back. He says, you can analyze, he says, 1,000 times. Hajar bar. If you analyze 1,000 times that there's no substance to this ego, doesn't matter. Next moment it comes back. that the very next second somebody says something to you, say, how dare you? See, this Totapuri, he was such a jnani that he could experience samadhi whenever he wanted to. He was a perfectly realized soul, but he used to keep the dhuni fire. And one day, I think Hazra or Hridoy, one of them, came and he said, I need some fire for my tobacco. And he went to take it from the sacred fire, from the dhuni. The Totapuri got furious. He's practically his object of worship, this fire. And he starts to yell at him. So Sri Ramakrishna, he starts laughing. He says, just now you're telling me everyone is Brahman, nothing exists but Brahman, and you're getting angry at him for trying to take fire from them. So this feeling of I, it comes back. So what does Sri Ramakrishna say? Akshala Bhaktoi. Remain as a servant of God. That this rascal won't go. Let the rascal stay. Pakshala. Let the rascal stay, but let him be a devotee of God. So first thing we want to do is to stop this identification with his physical body and with all the external things, that we form a new sense of I. If we feel that I'm a child of the Divine Mother, that's my sense of identification, then what is my relationship with my biological parents? They gave birth to the physical body, nothing else. When I say I'm a child of the Divine Mother, I'm thinking of myself as spirit, and not as a physical thing. Physically also, we can say if we want, but so this is one way to change our sense of identification by spiritualizing it. So he says, utilize this sense of I. So we have two ways. Either we try to strip away this feeling of I completely, and I am the witness. That's what remains. For the jnani, he said it's very difficult. The devotee has an easier way, and then convert that I, and make it a ripe. This unripe ego is fully invested in all external superficial things. And for some people, very, very superficial things. Yeah. What job title do I have? That will affect my sense of self-worth. I've been raised to, now I'm president, regional president of, yeah, you have to respect me. Yeah, CEO, all of these things, their whole sense of being and self-worth is in this upati, this add-on type of thing. So he says, change your sense of self-identification and give it a what he calls the ripe ego. So that will help break all of these other things, and then gradually this ego of devotion will draw us closer and closer and closer. Swamiji says we all start as dualists in this path of devotion. That God is there and I'm here. This cord of love will bring us closer and closer and closer till we can reach that final state of union or oneness. Union or oneness, merging. Will we end up by saying that you and I are one and the same? From a devotional point of view, we can. Not from the point of view of the jnani, because we always want the beloved to be present before us. Yeah. So Thakur says again, this is a question of preference. I prefer to have that little sense of separation to enjoy the relationship with God. He says, don't remove this ego completely and let me merge in Brahma Jnana. Let me experience the joy of devotion, a devotional relationship. So this all goes back to how we identify this sense of I. And after the highest type of realization, when the mind comes back down into this world, what I will we have at that time will depend upon what spiritual path we took and what type of realization we had. So Sri Ramakrishna says the jnani will have this eye of knowledge. That means that coming back from that stage, the jnani will feel, I'm one with the universe. Or else will feel that this is almost like a dream. The only reality is the self within. There's some feeling like that. The devotee will come back from that state with some type of eye of devotion. So that we'll say with Sri Ramakrishna, that will feel constant communion with the Divine Mother, that she's constantly within the heart, constantly directing him and he speaks what she makes him speak. He acts as she makes him act. That's some feeling like that. Both will be transformed egos that have no power to bind at all. So this the vichara, it helps us understand that the sense of I that we have is under our control. That this automatic sense of self-worth that's connected with so many superficial things. That we can, if we work very hard, we can realize that the superficial means not ultimately important. And if we remind ourselves how quickly these things change, that we'll be president of the United States for 4 years or 8 years, then afterwards we're not anymore. And whatever we have, we'll give up. And no matter how beautiful we are, one day we'll see old wrinkles and gray hair. Yeah. So that's there's also type of discrimination, that discrimination with regard to time. Time will steal everything away from us. No matter how much we cling to things, no matter how much we love our possessions, we'll give them up one day. It's all part of that type of vichara. Okay, so we did the 3 states of consciousness, and and even this idea of going to sleep, this 3 states of consciousness, peeling off this outer layer. I want to talk about the very old movie that was made probably in the 70s or 80s. It was called Cocoon. Did anybody see this movie? No, it's an old movie. Yeah, it's very interesting about these aliens that come to Earth. And in order for new aliens to be born, they have to germinate inside a big pod. And their planet is doesn't have the proper environment for it. So they find on the Earth that if these big pods are kept in the bottom of the ocean, that they can germinate, and it's a much later time they can be pulled out, and these aliens will be fully formed, and that's how they can go back to their planet. Something like that. So they come to Earth, and they look like ordinary human beings. They look, no one will be able to tell. And they hire someone to take his boat out to the ocean, and they're going to retrieve them or put new ones in. I don't remember, something like that. Now, one of the aliens is a very pretty girl. She's very, very attractive. And this young man who is the boatman, he gets a crush on her. And his room is right next to her room. And he can see through the peephole, through the keyhole. He can look into her room. So he's looking into her room, and she's ready to go to bed. And he sees that she takes off her dress and everything. Then she unzips her body. And comes out as a little green creature, an alien. And then he says, "Oh my God, what is this?" Yeah. And then he has this realization or something that these are aliens, of course, but we understand that when we go to sleep, we're zipping off the body and hanging it up in the closet, doing the same thing. And so she really just went into her subtle body. Of course, for her, it's her physical body. But if we could see that, if we could observe that, then we would lose so much of this identification with this physical body. And how much, think about this cosmetic industry and this plastic surgery and all of these things done so that we keep looking young and we keep looking pretty and everything, and dyeing our hair and getting rid of wrinkles, all of these things. Yeah.
They're saying it is very much increasing.
It'll increase more and more. Yes. And some of these countries, South Korea and other places, yeah. And trying to change the eyes so that they look more like Western eyes and everything. Yeah. The body is going to turn into ashes one day, or else get eaten up by roaches and maggots. Whether we bury or whether we burn. So you know what Holy Mother used to say? If you think about this physical body, she used to say, "Der share chai." 2.5 seers of ashes. Yeah, remind yourself of that. That's what it is. The moment you start getting invested in that, I'm a handsome person, I'm an ugly person. That is only not I am. This is a body. That's all. This body. Now, does it mean that we don't care about the body? We don't want to look nice? No, we want to look nice. We want to be healthy and everything. Yeah, we have to pay attention to it. We can even say the temple of God. We want to keep it in good working order and everything. That, of course, we have to have some common sense. Now, there will be monks, there'll be some sadhus that will pay no attention to the body whatsoever. I'm not recommending this, but there'll be some like that will never take medicine. Or Swami Vijnanananda was like that. Yeah. That will never take medicine, will never do anything to increase length of life or anything like that. Because I'm eternal. I'm the eternal witness of everything, unaffected. How many thousands and thousands and thousands of bodies that I've gone through? So these are all different kind of spiritual attitudes, we can say. So yes, the less we're invested in this physical body, the better. But we have to understand that there are layers on top of this physical body. There are layers on top of this. Just as we can keep adding, we can put on a sweater and then put on a jacket, then an overcoat. We can keep adding layers on. This is what we do with regard to our occupation, our political affiliation, our religion, all of these things. These become sources of identification, so that I don't identify simply with physical body, but a particular type. One very, very strong, one of the most strongest types is do I have a male body or a physical body? And the sense of identification that I'm a man or I'm a woman. And then, of course, we'll have many people that will feel that I'm a woman in a man's body or a man in a woman's body. We have to accept that there are people like that. So we have many layers that we add to these things, and they can be more and more superficial. And a lot of these things separate us from others. This is the main problem. This is the main problem with this type of identification with our religion, identification with our ethnic background, with the country of origin, identification with class, identification with caste, with our occupation, how we form little groups and everything, and how they make us feel separate from other people. So this really will be the last thing that I'll go through now, which I think is almost the most important thing, that this false identification separates us from other people, and that we have to apply this whole concept of these layers to other people. So the first thing that we have to do when we see somebody else is say, okay, skin color is different, hair is different, eyes are different, facial features are different. Peel them off. That's not the person that I'm coming face to face with. These are external things, superficial things. Who is the person inside of that? Right? So then we get to the mind and we say, okay, so this person believes that you either go to heaven or you go to hell. And I believe that everyone will eventually get realization. This is a belief that that person was taught from childhood. It also doesn't really define that person. The person may change that idea and everything. And don't let that make me feel separate from that person. So we peel away all of these things, and we'll get to a level of humanity. Now, to get to the level of the self, you and I are one, that's very difficult. But we can get to a level where we see that each and every individual has the same aspirations. Each and every individual wants to lead a good life, be a happy person, to be free from conflict and everything. That all the things that we share in common. This is the jiva level. That level where we can say this vijnanamaya kosha if we want. This manomaya kosha on the mind level will be different. We all have different points of view and everything. But if we peel away even that and just get to the individual and recognize that everybody is acting according to their own nature and their personality and what they think is the right thing to do. Even those who kill people in the name of religion, they're doing it out of some type of conviction. Of course, there'll be some people who have mental difficulties and problems that's different. But by learning to peel off these outer layers of the onion, we can at least get to the very inner layers of the onion that are common to all of us, and feel this sense of oneness. This is what we learn from Holy Mother, that no one is a stranger to us, that we can feel this oneness with everyone just by peeling away all superficial external things. And because they don't mean anything. What a person looks like, where a person is born, what a person's skin color, all of these things, they separate us. And we give so much importance to these things. Somebody speaks with a different accent, they're foreigners. We use the term aliens, illegal aliens. And just imagine the same term we're using for Martians, for people from outer space, we're using for human beings. Yeah. So peel the onion at least to the point where we feel this oneness as human beings, that all children of the same divine mother, however we understand it, at least we can get that far. If we can go even further and feel that that same divine consciousness is pulsating and shining through each and every individual, that's shining through me. And then we really put into practice this idea that you have to get to the core of these, eliminate everything superficial, and then we'll get to not just oneness with God, but oneness with all beings. So to me, this very final lesson is the most important because it's the most practical and it's the one that we can do. To think that we can very easily get to the point where I realize that the self is nothing but the witness, that I'm not this personality, I'm not the mind. It's very difficult, but we can get to that point where we feel this shared oneness, this shared humanity with others. And we see with the Swamiji's teaching that if we can get to that core, then we can see that it's God dwelling within all beings. And of course, service to them is the highest type of worship. So, okay, so I ran over. So we'll stop here. But I don't mind if you have some questions that you can feel free to ask. Yes. Yes. Okay, now this is a very big question, a very difficult question. That is this witness, is it the sun itself, or is it the reflected sun? Yeah. And from a devotional point of view, they'll say that the personal God is watching us. Yeah. Now, a little bit more philosophical, it's God dwelling within the heart who's watching us, the Antaryaman. Yeah. From a slightly more Vedantic point of view, it's the higher self that's watching us. So this is a big question. If we think of God as the infinite absolute reality, can it be an observer in any way other than through us? So does God see? Does God have eyes to see? Or does God see through our eyes? Or are both true? These are tough questions. We get different answers, different traditions. The devotee will say that God is God. God can observe, can see what's in the minds and hearts of everyone. God will hear everyone's prayers. The jnani will say yes, but from within, And this idea of the witness, my personal feeling, if you want my personal feeling, is that it has to be already separated. That I don't have the sense that I have a sense of this witness within as I'm speaking to you, also hearing me speak as the higher self, but not hearing what you're thinking. Yeah. So from that point of view, as if there's a witness with this lowercase w that we all have, but is ultimately traced back to that one sun. Ultimately, there's only one. But that one consciousness, in order to be a witness, has to be reflected into the individual minds. This is my understanding. There'll be different points of view with this, different ways of interpreting this. The devotee will say, no, God is God. You say, how is it possible for God to hear each and every person's prayers at one at the same time? Because God is God. It may not be the rational answer that we want, but that'll be their faith. Yeah. So that's a very tricky question. Where do we place this? I place the witness right in between. We have a concept in Vedanta called tatastha. Tata means a bank. Stha means just lying on the bank. So if you look at a map and there's a river and you see two lines there, the line, does it belong to the bank or does it belong to the river? Or if we look in the horizon, we see a line there that represents the horizon. Does it belong to the sky or does it belong to the earth? No. Exactly in between. And if we analyze very much, we'll find there's no line at all. It's just where the sky meets the earth. And then if we analyze even more, no, it's where the earth is blocking the sky, which is infinite. It gives the appearance of a line. So this jiva, we were asking before, what is this jiva? It's the appearance of some particular individual soul. And as witness, we can say it really belongs to the sky because it's conscious and aware, but it has to be tied in. It's got to be right at that point where it's connected with the earth somehow. So tatastha, it's an in-between type of concept. It belongs a little bit to the mind also. Has to be in contact with the mind. But the reality is that it's the sky. It's that infinite, we're sun of knowledge. Yeah.
On the same, if like an enlightened person, like you mentioned about the salt dog.
Yes, yes.
So when he comes back to the material world, how does that person know, like, how is it different from a dreamless
Okay.
a state?
Okay.
So does the subjective, gaze kind of like remain in that state when the person comes back to the material world? Like, is that what that person feels like, that it is there out there, but I'm looking at it from that higher gaze? So is that?
It depends. Now, this is what I was saying before. It depends what route we take to climb to the roof. If we take the stairs, if we go by a rope, we go. Thakur says many different ways to get to the roof. Most people, they'll come down the same way that they went up. So take the example of Swami Krishna, his first realization of Mother Kali. So the description that we get is that wave after wave of divine bliss, the ocean of consciousness overwhelmed him and he lost all the outer consciousness. Then when he woke up, so on his lips were the words, Ma, 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 Mother, 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 and he felt he had the realization of the Divine Mother. Now, somebody else, worshiper of Krishna, could have that same experience where the mind is merged. There's no functioning of the mind. Come down and say, yes, I realize that Sri Krishna is all. Vasudeva Sarvamiti. So it depends a little bit on how the mind gets there. But the main difference is, this is what Swamiji says, you go to sleep and wake up, you're the same fool that you were before. You have samadhi, you come back down, you're enlightened, you're completely transformed. That no fear, no anxiety, there's a love and compassion for all beings, completely transformed. There's no doubt or question about anything. Otherwise, we won't know, because both states are states where there's no, at least we don't feel that we're there to observe it. The witness is there, of course, but from a particular point of view. So yes, we can say that from the outsider's point of view, they look almost identical. But when we see the fruits of it, when we see this transformation that takes place, then we know person's filled with joy and bliss. That means that it must have been a blissful experience at that time. when the person sleeping wakes up, feels a little comfort and everything. So it must have been, somehow that light of the self is shining through, but it's a very subtle type of just reflected type of light. So that affects the way we feel afterwards. Yeah. Otherwise, it's very hard to explain. Yeah, exactly. Other skeptics may say that if you can't tell me what you experienced and you weren't there to experience, that it was an experience. You say, yes, but I'm filled with joy and bliss, and my doubts are all gone and ignorance is gone. I feel one with everyone. It must have been something special. Yeah. So that much we can say. But what their attitude afterwards depends a lot on the nature of their spiritual attitude. Yeah.
That's the reason why we have, like, I mean.
Why even great souls can disagree or give different types of opinions about things. Yeah. Yes. Oh, one more behind. Yeah. Vishal.
How does one measure or not measure, like, maintain the hygiene of each of the 5 layers of human?
Say that again. The hygiene.
How
Yeah.
does one maintain the hygiene of each of the 5 layers of this, like the physical and then the mind and then the consciousness? How can one be more mindful of, just achieving, let's say, purity at each of those levels?
Yeah. First thing is and that we have to look at our motives for doing everything. That say food, for example, is it just for enjoyment, or is it for health, or is it just to maintain the body? And we try to eliminate selfish desire from things. This is desire just for enjoyment. We try to utilize this idea of shreyas and preyas. What is a good sense of priorities that we can use for how to deal with this physical body, that we don't want to get too invested in it. So constantly running to the doctor and trying to make it perfect and everything, working out day and night so that we're big and strong and everything. At the same time, to not neglect it. So we need balance, something like that. Then with the mind or with the senses, we just have to, be sensible. That we go to the doctor, get our eyes checked, our hearing checked, and things like. But with the mind, again, if we can root out selfishness, if we can root out this is longing for sense pleasure, a little bit is fine. That's okay. But just observe our priorities and try to act in a responsible way that's good for other people, that's good for ourselves, and to be very positive and try to see the best in other people. We know all the very simple things. Yeah, to do all of that and to do our spiritual practice. See, if we do our spiritual practice and holy company, Thakur emphasized that so much. We keep a holy company, then automatically we'll have a pole star. Our compass will go in the right direction. We'll have some examples, some role models and everything. And we know the best way to live in this world. If we read the Gospel of Swami Krishna, teachers of Holy Mother, Bhagavad Gita, other Upanishads, whatever tradition we follow, we have these role models that we can follow. So a lot of it is moderation, a lot of it is just common sense, and a lot of it is having a standard that we can follow, have an ideal in life, that everything can be subsumed under that one ideal, and it'll tie everything together. So, yeah, Sheila.
Yeah, my question is about, suppose that somebody had a accident or death, car accident, and they are in their journey of life, but now do that jiva start back where it left?
The teaching that we get is that, the teaching that we get, especially according to Gita and all of our this Vedantic tradition will agree, is that whatever progress we make in spiritual life is permanent, that we don't lose it. We may backtrack, we may have little slips and things, but we never have to start from ground zero. We never have to go back again. Now, the example that we have is King Bharat. That King Bharat we know the story that at the end of his life, he went into the forest and there was a deer that used to come and became a pet. And he became so attached to this deer that all he could think about was this deer. At the moment of death, he was thinking about this deer. And the final thought determines the birth that we have next. He was born as a deer. Okay. Now, did he have to go through every birth after that? A deer, then he's born as a bear, then he's born as a cow, then he's born as a dog. Did he have to go through all of that? No. The very next birth, he was born as a great sage. Jada Bharat. Very next birth. And such a great sage because he was such a great soul. He was King Bharat. Yeah. And somehow a little attachment came at the end. So because of that, he had memory of his previous lifetime. And in order not to be attached to anything, he never spoke. So he's called Jada. People thought he was dumb. He never spoke. There's a beautiful little book, I don't remember the name, a little Sanskrit text about how when he finally spoke, he spoke the highest Vedantic wisdom and everything. Yeah. So it was a little setback that one life as a deer, but he continued where he was before. So we never lose anything. Yeah. So there's whatever we gain is our possession, and we always keep going forward and forward. Yeah.
That's from a spiritual sense. But if you start the life all over, you go back, you're not going to start a real, your postdoctoral degree in a physical sense. Like the child has to go through a game, to feed this or the.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to get through, yeah, we have to get through all of these things. Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. With the Jada Bharat, that was a special thing. From his very birth, he remembered. But yes, of course, that we have to get through these teenage years and other years and everything into but it'll come out eventually. Yeah. Yeah. So there's no permanent. I'll tell you a very interesting story. I don't know what it's from, one of the Puranas, perhaps. There's some story that there was a guru who was considered by his disciples to be a perfect, fully God-realized soul. And he was about to die, so they took him outside, and near the Ganga, they lay him down under a mango tree. So the disciples said that, how will we know that you've achieved final liberation? Is there any sign? So the Guru said, you'll hear thunder. There'll be a flash of lightning. You'll hear this roar of the thunder. You know that there's no more rebirth for me. So he died. He just quietly passed away there, and they're all waiting to hear it. They don't hear anything. So one of them is very clever. He sees where the Guru is lying down. If he looks straight up, there's a luscious mango there. So it's very clever. He takes this mango, he opens it up, and he sees there's a worm inside. And he takes out the worm and he cuts the worm in half, and then they hear the thunder.
What?
He had the last thing he saw was a mango, a little desire to taste the mango. He had to be reborn as a worm in order to experience that. Once that was done, there was no bar to his liberation. And yeah, it's the story. Yeah. 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 So, but he didn't have to go back and from the worm life to be everything else. That's the point. So, yeah, like King Bharata, he had to be a deer in one lifetime. Yeah. So, Kunal.
Well, this is a follow-up of the
Okay.
first question I asked.
Uh-huh.
He was talking about are the individual jivas or
Yes.
we are all reflection, and you said I believe that for your personal belief that we are separated because I cannot see through you and all of that.
No, that's the question. Is there one witness or are there
Yeah,
many
and
witnesses? Yeah. Yeah.
And
But actually, jiva means many. Jiva means many, but the question is once the passenger gets out of the chariot, are there many other passengers that will get out? That's the question. If there are many, then we'll say there are many jivas. If he gets out and sees there was only one, it was the reflection that gave the appearance, each one was in a different one, then there's only one ultimately. Yeah. Or see, if we use the reflection of the sun. There are many reflections. Don't doubt that. There are many reflections, so there are many jivas. But once we break everything, then we find out that there wasn't a different sun for each reflection. There was only one sun. So there are many jivas, but one self, or Brahman, the source will be one. From the point of view of jiva, jiva means that individual soul. But what is the jiva in reality? Brahmaiva napara. That says, well, the Dvaita Vedanta will say that it's only this false identification. It's only if we use the example of the different empty glasses, then the jiva is the space inside the glass. When we move the glass, is the space inside moving? If there's water, the water will move. If it's a space, it's moving through space. There's only space. Space can't be divided. So that point of view, there's oneness. But as long as the glass is there, then we can talk about the size of how much space is inside. So if the glass is our point of reference, then they're all separate. If space is our point of reference, then there's only one. But ultimately, this is asking the question: how many suns do you see when all the containers are broken? We can't answer. Yeah.
The reason I
Yeah,
asked,
yeah.
Maharaj, was because I am, that is half understood by me, that, but I think I'm getting it. It says that once I analyze, I am the self and etc. And it's infinite because it cannot be limited by space, time, and position. And then the argument was, I think it was Swami Vivekananda who said that there cannot be two infinites,
Yes.
and therefore there is only one Brahman.
Yes. A Brahman, of course, can only be one. Yeah.
So, however, that is not against the fact that for temporarily or for our business sake, day-to-day business sake, we think of separate Brahmans in different glasses.
We see separate reflections of Brahman, not separate
Even
Brahmins.
the space concept, I like it.
Yeah.
The space concept is the same space,
Yeah.
but somehow there's a glass because for our
It seems to separate.
for day-to-day
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mark.
Yeah, but really, if we think that when the drop of water enters into the ocean, and there are many drops of water, all the enter into the ocean, do we really care to say that it was always one with the ocean, now there's no separation one with the ocean, or that each individual drop became one with the ocean? Really, it's not a very important question at that point, to me. For the philosopher, of course, they'll have a big argument that we can't go back to oneness unless we're already one and everything, and we want to feel oneness. We can feel oneness with everyone on the lower level, on this humanity level. We can feel oneness as sameness. See, for the say Ramanuja, that we're all ultimately identical. Now, there's a difference between oneness and identity. Right? Identity means that there has to be two. You have identical twins. They look exactly alike. Identical twins, but there are two of them. So if we think of car manufacturer, that every Toyota that comes up, that's the same model, same color, same add-ons and everything, they'll be identical. If it's done right, there's no flaw and nothing, they'll be perfectly identical, but they're all separate and different. So this is this Vishishta Dvaita Vedanta, that once we reach that state of perfection, all differences, particularities will disappear. Each soul will be identical, just like that ray of light from the sun, the one with the sun. It's a beautiful idea. It's fine. Now, the Vedantic point of view will be that there's no sense of identity between two objects, that there really is only one. So take the example of Superman and Clark Kent. Are they two different people? Superman is Clark Kent. Huh? Everybody knows about Superman. You know about Superman. Yeah, okay. Anyhow, this Superman, he has this other identity that when he's Clark Kent, now we see everything is the opposite. When he's Clark Kent, he wears thick glasses. He has very poor eyesight. He's very cowardly. All of these things are different. When he takes off his glasses and when he takes off his outer thing and he wears his cape and everything, he's Superman. He has X-ray vision. He can fly and he's not afraid of anything. Yeah. So they look like they're completely opposite. It's not that Clark Kent becomes Superman, that he is Superman. He has to just get rid of these upadhis, these things that make him appear to be fearful and small and limited and shy and everything like that. Just eliminate them, and he is Superman. So I am the self. I am Brahman. I'm not trying to merge into Brahman. I am Brahman. I just have to take off these outer coverings that are preventing me from seeing it. This is the Advaitic position. It's a beautiful position. I love that idea. But when we think about what does it really mean? How can I feel the self within me is the self within you? And then we can only think of it in terms of almost some substance or something. If we're really thinking of awareness, I can't conceive of the awareness within me. Within you, it doesn't appear to be awareness. It becomes third person. Yeah. So this is why it's only in that state. See, the state of nirvikalpa samadhi and the state of oneness with the Brahman will be the same. In that state, there's no individual awareness. It's just merged in awareness somehow. We can't even say that. We can't say anything about it. So I don't bother much. I tell people I'm an anti-philosopher now, that I look upon all of these as pot. Joto mot, toto pot. Thakur says mot, pot. It's a very small sentence. That all these philosophical systems and all these world faiths and everything are simply paths to get to God. They're not God. They're paths to get to truth. They're not truth. He said, but tobe ishonoi, but it's not God. Don't confuse that. It's not the truth. It can take us to the truth, and they may differ with each other. They can get us to the truth, which is beyond mind and thought. Even the Upanishads say that. Yeah, beyond mind and thought. Abang Banasagochan. So that ultimate truth is what it is, it is. The Thakur says, what is Brahman like? Brahman is like Brahman. You can't compare it to anything else. What does ghee taste like? Ghee tastes like ghee. Yeah. It says anupam. We can't compare it to anything else. So all of these other systems, now, there's something called relativism that, yeah, it doesn't matter what you believe. Everything is relative. We don't accept that. We're trying to eliminate everything that's superstition, everything that's illogical. It has to make some sense. We have to be able to analyze it and feel that it's considered. But belief system is a question of choice. We believe what we like to believe, ultimately, what appeals to us. This is why Thakur always says things like, he doesn't say that you call this world a dream. It's not a dream, it's real. He says, I don't like to call this world unreal like a dream. Look at the language. I don't like to do it. It doesn't appeal to me. The Jnani will do that, and Jnani can have God realization through that idea. And Jnani will say, yes, because that means that I won't get attached to this world. I know that it's like a show, it'll come and it'll go. I won't get too attached. For the person of that temperament, it's the best attitude to take. So, Jamon Bhab Temni Labh, that we gain according to our attitude, and it's different for everybody. Ruchi Bhed. It depends upon what appeals to us. And this adhikara, this hajam shakti, what we can digest, what's good for us. This is the distinction, and not what's right and what's wrong, or how one philosopher can defeat the other by showing flaws. Every system has a flaw. Thakur says that himself. Nobody's watch keeps perfect time. Only the sun. Only the sun. Only the sun. Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever stop and think? I mentioned this one of our classes, that how do we keep time? Only when the sun is directly up above us, it's noon. That's it. That everything is based off of that. We could have 80 minutes instead of 60 minutes. Well, everything else is arbitrary. So the only when the sun is directly above that we can say it's noon. Now, if you go 5 feet to the west or 5 feet to the east, noon will be different. It'll be a microsecond off. That's all. We have these atomic clocks and everything, so they keep perfect time. If it's noon, you have to be right in the middle of a time zone for it to really be noon. If you go close to the other side, you're a half hour off. From one side to the other side is almost an hour difference. And we say it keeps perfect time. It's only the sun, and we never know exactly when it's directly overhead. And it's just for a split second like that. Yeah. I'll give another interesting example. I think about these things sometimes. That, if you want to know the length of what's it called, hypotenuse. Yeah. That you take this square of both sides and add them together and the square root of that. So if you have 2 inches and 3 inches, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, that becomes 25. The square root of that is 5. So if one is 3 inches, one is 2 inches, that has to be 5 inches. Now, if we use any other numbers, then you'll get the square root of something. It'll be I think they call it irrational number. There's no possible way to say it'll be an endless number of things to say exactly what that number is. So does that mean that we don't know the length of that? We know exactly the length because we have the line. Only we can't put a number to it. But that's what the length of it is. That line itself is the length of it, not what numerical value that we'll put to it. Yeah. So Brahman is what it is. We have all different ways of calibrating and trying to think that now we've pinpointed this and that and everything, but we can have of course have more sensible types of descriptions and things that are more rational and everything, but ultimately it is what it is. That's all. Okay, I think we should probably stop now, huh? At 1 o'clock. Yeah. Okay. Good. If there are any questions later, there may be time tomorrow or something. And yeah. Tonight is anything. Do I have to talk tonight? Music. I don't say anything tonight. Good. Okay. Okay. So now I think time for lunch. Huh? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Did it make sense? Yeah. Yeah. Any areas of big confusion? Okay. There's a difference. The main difference is if we think of the sun and the reflection. So you'll see the reflection of the sun. It'll seem to lie on the surface of the water that's in the container of the body. That we can say is the jiva, but it can be traced back to the sun. It's nothing other than that real sun. Good.